Soldier family, what's up, man? USCJ here. It's the top of the morning. Listen, I hope everybody is getting ready to get up, get out, and make some things happen this morning. Listen, we got to talk about USC's big win over Arizona State. What can we learn from this win, and what do you guys think about as it relates to USC from a perception standpoint when you're talking about the media? I had to do some investigation. USCJ is absolutely on the case. And look, I looked up Washington's defense. I looked up Florida State defense. And you guys, to you guys' surprise, possibly, USC is ranked ahead of Washington and Florida State in the defensive category. Now, you guys may say, look, how is that possible? Look, man, we've already been bringing you guys numbers, man. And I told you guys that seeing is believing. The media, the perception, the way they present things, the way they put out information is always it's very deceitful. And when we look at what took place over the weekend, especially when you look at the AP poll, they dropped USC from number 5 to number 8. And to me, it's like, okay, Florida State gets a pass. When they go to Boston College, almost lose against Boston College. And then, of course, you guys already know they almost lost against Clemson over the weekend. When you look at these things that take place on a consistent basis and how consistent they are with USC absolutely having to perform perfect. Now, was USC, did they have the best performance? No. But that even speaks more to what how impressive it is as it relates to them going up and putting 40-something points on the road against Arizona State. Coming off a bye week, you guys already know they were essentially lost in the sauce as it relates to just picking up and starting slow. So we're going to take a look at this information. We got receipts for you this morning. We want you guys to take a look, investigate, evaluate for yourself. You guys can hit me in the comment section and tell me what you think. A lot of fans were down on the performance of USC. I was absolutely, especially when you're talking about from a defensive front standpoint, USC absolutely performed. I'm happy with them. Yes, we need some improvement in the linebacker play. It should have been maybe a different rotation. Mason Cobb coming off an injury, Eric Gentry coming off an injury. Hopefully these guys are all the way healthy. But look, man, does that mean they're bad players? Absolutely not. It just means that, look, we worked these guys in at a slower pace and put the guys in that had the hot hand, like maybe a Rajon or maybe a Shane Lee, and then Tackett Curtis as well. So you guys hit me in the comments. We'll talk about that, man. Look, I believe the linebackers are one of the strongest groups. I believe in Mason Cobb. I believe in Eric Gentry. I believe in Tackett Curtis. I believe in Rajon. I believe in Garrison Madden. I believe in Chris Thompson Jr. I believe in all our linebackers. So look, we're going to talk about that. And arguably one of the most consistent other than the D-line is some of the secondary play. There's been some questions with the cornerbacks, but Jalen Smith, Caleb Bullock, those two guys have been very, very consistent as it relates to the cornerback play. So, look, let's take a look at where USC's defense stands and compare it to. All right, let's take a look at some of these guys' defense when you look at different schools. And we're going to look at Georgia. We're going to look at Washington. But you see it here. LSU number 66. USC right now is essentially in the middle of the pack. Out of 130 schools, right now USC is tied for number 69th overall in the defensive category in total defense. And you guys look at it here. Look at number 72. It happens to be Washington, the Washington Huskies. And a lot of people, I told you guys that seeing is believing. When you see something, a lot of times we automatically believe from a total team perspective that Washington has the edge. Now, here's a very big issue for Washington. Washington has to come to USC. Washington has to have the ability to stop us. We're going to take a look at some scores as well from the past weekend. But Washington, I hear some of the fans say that Washington is going to run all over USC. Well, guess what? We're going to run all over Washington. And we have advantage. Advantage being that we're playing this game at home. We're going to score at will on Washington if they maintain this defensive statistic. Because Cal absolutely had major success against them. Yes, Washington put up points, but then, it was a going back and forth at one point. But look at where USC stands and look at where Washington stands. USC is literally ahead of Washington, and we'll take a look at some offenses as well. Let's take a look at a lot of these other teams as it relates to total defense. So here is the number one team in the country, Georgia. They ranked at number 17. And look at who they played. They played a South Carolina team who's at the bottom of the barrel from a defensive perspective. they played several teams that were at the bottom of the barrel as it relates to the defense, and they get a pass. I like I told you, I'm one of those that believe unless you knock them off, you got to keep them there. But I'm not impressed with the way Georgia is right now. But look, they're maintaining number 17, but that's where they're at right now. Let's take a look at some other teams real quick. And you see here, that South Carolina team that Georgia actually played, you see them ranked number 120 in the country as far as the defense. And they play some other teams that are just absolutely awful. But look at where Colorado was. Colorado was ranked number 125 out of 130 schools in the country. Why was Oregon able to put that many points up? Yeah, because of the defense. Look at the team that they played the week before, Colorado. So it's Colorado State and Colorado have the two worst defenses, arguably, almost in the country, being that it only goes up to number 130. They're sitting there at 124 and 125. USC should have absolute major success. And I told you guys, a lot of people don't realize that shootout, they had a shootout against TCU, and they put a lot of points up against TCU, and a lot of people are wondering why. And, and TCU put up a lot of points against them. And TCU's not a team that's actually even that good right now. And Colorado State as well put up a lot of points against them. But I'll get into all that when it comes to the preview. But we really trying to magnify and talk about the defense. And, I was impressed with our defensive front. We're going to take a look real quick. I want to take a look real quick before I look at some defensive numbers, at some defensive, some actual game scores from last week, and to show you how the media and the AP, just the fact that they're switching back and forth, it's like they're playing musical chairs with USC falling down 3 spots in the AP poll is absolutely crazy. But let's take a look at that. Now, we just showed you the defensive numbers. We showed you the defensive numbers from over the weekend, but let's take a look real quick. I'll show you the total defense. Let's take a look at the past weekend scores. You see a UAB team has one of the worst defenses in the country, and they played up against the number 1 team in the country, which is Georgia. This was at home, 49. You see it here, 49-21. And I want you guys to look at that very carefully. And then let's scroll over to our score, USC versus Arizona State. This is an away game. But we get all the bash and we get all of the discredit. Our defense is this, and this was a stagnated USC team that really came off flat during the bye week. So I think it's important to understand and realize that, look, USC was able to hold their own. They threw the whole kitchen sink at USC with trick plays. Look at how many trick plays, and this is coming from us turning the ball on our own goal line. Should have just had a regular handoff opposed to just doing some play action stuff. It was absolutely ridiculous. It didn't even have to be this. And then you see a Washington team here, 59-32 against a Cal team. You gotta wonder, man, like how inflated is some of these projections as it relates to the top 25, because you see some are promoting Washington more than USC. Some are promoting Oregon more. And then look at the Florida State. You look at the Florida State team here. Florida State 31-24. This was overtime versus Clemson. They really should have lost that game. We're talking about a Clemson team that lost, I believe, 29-7 or 9 to Duke. And we're talking about the same Florida State team that also almost lost against Boston College, at Boston College. Now, USC playing a Boston College right now, I think we would absolutely blow them out. But there was a struggle. It came to the very end. It was a shootout. So look, man, USC fans, I think it's important that you guys really understand when you look at these numbers, when you look at the numbers of being number 69th in the country in total defense, and it's only going to get better. A lot of stuff is self-inflicted wounds when you're talking about USC's giving up some of those points. And then you couple that with some of the trick plays. And then think about the Stanford game. The Stanford game, we let the foot off the gas. Really just everybody came out for the most part. Well, they played in the first half, came out the second half. You had a lot of backups. So, these numbers are a little bit inflated. I think our defense is a lot better than what some suggest and some think. When you look at it, even from the cornerback position, yes, we had a little bit of issues, but I think cornerbacks Nickelback, Jalen Smith has been playing lights out. He's been very, very consistent. We're going to take a look at some numbers real quick. Kalen Bullock has been very consistent. The defensive front has been very consistent. Where the issues kind of come last weekend was the linebacker position. Mason Cobb coming off an injury. Eric Gentry, he's still kind of coming off an injury. There was a couple of missed tackles, but yes, we could have probably put Rajon in if we seen those guys weren't healthy and moving and grooving the right way. It's not saying that these guys are bad players, but it's just saying, hey, maybe you just guys got to take a break, get totally healthy before you come back in. Shake some of that rust off. We'll work you in slowly, opposed to getting some of the most snaps. I think Mason might have 70 some snaps. I think Tackett might have had 40 some snaps. I got to go back and look at that. But let's take a look real quick at some of the defensive stat numbers for USC. All right, here are the defensive stat numbers here. And this is the sack and the total loss, tackles for loss counter. And you see Jamil Muhammad, he has been arguably one of the most consistent guys in this USC defense. He's been so consistent. One might say that he's exceeding expectations. I think for some he's exceeding expectations. For me, I wouldn't say he's exceeding expectations, because when I did a defensive upgrade video, he was one of those that I thought that would absolutely exceed and excel in this particular defense, given the fact that he's so athletic. Alex Grinch loves those athletic guys coming off the edge. So the part that he exceeds expectations, in my opinion, is the part that he's been so consistent. And every time he comes in, he appears to have that same motor. It doesn't seem like he stops. It doesn't seem like he has an in-between speed. It seems like he has it's all go speed, and it's the same every single time. So the consistency aspect from Jamil Muhammad, that has exceeded my expectations. But from an athletic standpoint and his ability to be able to make plays, it does not surprise me at all. I think Jamil Muhammad is that guy. He's my MVP right now. I would say the most consistent MVP of the whole defense, I think. But here you see Tacky Curtis. He had 2 sacks as well, 2 tackles for loss. Solomon Byrd here, 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss. Then Ramilo Height, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss. Bear Alexander, he recorded his first sack, 1.5 tackles for loss. And by the way, Bear Alexander, he leads all Power 5 schools right now with pressures. All Power 5 schools, Bear Alexander is the #1 guy leading with the pressures, defensive pressures. Christian Roland Wallace had 1 tackle for loss. Eric Gentry, 1 tackle for loss. And Jacoby Covington, half a tackle for loss. So the team had 8 total sacks, 14 tackle for losses. And I think that USC, man, can really build, especially as it relates to the front 7, really build on that performance of those tackles for loss. So look, man, you guys hit me. And I got one more thing I kind of want to address real quick as it relates to the USC's defense. And this is something everybody is kind of raving about, the Colorado win with with Oregon and Colorado. And we told you guys, I just showed you guys that the defense for Colorado was one of the worst in the country. But, people soon to forget. They making a big deal out of what Oregon did. But here, Oregon almost lost. And I watched the game. There was an interception by Tyler Shuck. I believe that's his name. He's a transfer quarterback that came from Oregon. There was an interception, I believe it was by the edge rusher or the linebacker. Guy was going out of bounds. Referee, the media thought, we all thought that it was a clear interception on Bo Nix. They called it back, and it was unbelievable. I mean, we all seen it. We all seen the replay, and we know what time it is with that. But Oregon should have lost that game against a team right now that's currently 1-3. Same record as Arizona State. Same record as UAB, who just put up 21 points against a team like Georgia. But Oregon gets a pass, of course, and that same Texas Tech loss against a team, West Virginia, last weekend. So it's like, okay, let's put everything in the right perspective, in its proper perspective, and let's really analyze. Let's do our due diligence and do our research before we make assumption and before we think that and crown anybody. Because at the end of the day, they're all in the same category right now when you're talking about playing certain teams. So let's take a look real quick at some other information, and then I'm out of here. And here's the Associated Press. This is the last thing I want to take a look at real quick. And my main issue with this is, as I presented the case to you, USC stands on defense. But look, are you guys surprised? I'm not surprised. I already told you guys, we've been knowing that the defensive front has been absolutely performing, especially when you look at all the PFF grades. We've been bringing you these PFF grades. And look, USC's defense is not as bad as what you some fans suggest. Man, look, I need all of the fans to really understand how this thing plays out and really understand the dynamics and different aspects of the game, especially when you're talking about playing on the road. You look at Washington's win, as we stated, at home. When you look at Georgia's win, at home. So I think you got to consider, you got to factor some of that stuff in, man, and really understand that USC is absolutely performing. For that being their first game, they got acclimated to being away. First 3 games at home, got comfortable, and then coming off a bye week, which is arguably the worst thing that could possibly ever happen when you have a team that has momentum, had momentum like USC. Now they got to pick it back up the same way they had to pick it up for San Jose State. You guys remember after San Jose State, they had to pick it up, man. They were came out kind of slow. Next game, Nevada, they came out dominated. Then Stanford came out dominated. They just got to pick that momentum back up, man. You guys got to hit me in the comments. You guys tell me what you think. Listen, that's all I got for you guys today. Hit me in the comments. Drop those comments below. Listen, you guys already know where you can find me at. It's going to be USCJ32 on Instagram, USCJ32 on Twitter. Listen, until later on, everybody stay blessed. Fight on, fight on, fight on.